97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco. Powered by InsideTheBirds.com.
He's in! Touchdown!
Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4, powered by Inside the Birds podcast. Andrew DiCecco is our Friday guest. He joins us now. We'll get into the NFL, some updates on the NFL. DeSean Jackson, we just told you from Adam Schefter, DeSean Jackson meeting with an anti-Semitic group yesterday, meeting with a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor today. So, as Schefter's words, not mine, he's trying to educate himself. We got the text, the tweet this morning from Julian Edelman that said he and Jackson also have made plans to educate each other on each other's backgrounds. So it looks like DeSean Jackson at least is making an effort, Andrew DiCecco. So are these some of the things that Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles were hoping to see after they met the other day?
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, you know, he's told he needs to be active in promoting equality, and you know he's taking those steps. I feel like they're really waiting before issuing a punishment. They really wanted to see DeSean take that extra effort and see if he was going to take the measures, see what measures he was willing to go to kind of educate himself. You know, he spoke to the rabbi. He spoke to a rabbi. You know, Julian Edelman reached out to him, and they're going to be going to D.C. and that's exactly what you want to see from DeSean. And I obviously saw what Adam Schefter just tweeted about meeting with a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor and a group against anti-Semitism. So I think he's doing everything that you would expect him to do. Words without action are meaningless, but he's putting actions behind his words.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed that there was no definitive end game for DeSean Jackson. Mm-hmm. This was more, how are you going to what will your actions be after this meeting? You show us that you want to be a part of this organization, because many people are saying, well, he's not educated on it. Well, the Eagles say, go educate yourself, and then we'll So the end game answer was not there, but it seems that he is trying to at least hold up his end of the bargain. So it seems that the Eagles now, the decision goes back to them. Is DeSean Jackson doing enough to kind of suffice their meeting?
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were talking about on Tuesday. Like I said, I never for 1 second thought that DeSean Jackson was coming from a place of hate. I thought he was coming from a lack of understanding. And they pretty much said, like you were saying, go educate yourself then. And that's what he's done. He has all these different resources at his fingertips here, and people willing to reach out and work with him on these things. And he's definitely taking them up on that. And that has to make Jeffrey Lurie and company happy to see him take these steps.
Marquise Goodwin and Malik Jackson also had words to say in comments on Instagram about this whole thing. Do you sense that maybe they will need to go through something as well, similar to DeSean Jackson?
Not necessarily. I don't think that it's gotten to that point. I don't think that they certainly didn't go to the measures that DeSean did to kind of warrant something like that. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. It obviously made a little bit of news yesterday, but if you read Marquise Goodwin's, comments, he made it very clear that, he has no hate in his heart or anything like that. So I think that won't be necessary for them.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, Andrew, you look at all of this stuff, the Eagles have a lot of distractions going on around them all of a sudden with this. Malik Jackson and Goodwin, I mean, it seems that everybody is just hoping to get to training camp. Where we stand on this Friday, how do you feel about the plan to get back to work?
Well, there's a lot that needs to get kind of hashed out between now and then. Not besides an Eagles perspective. I mean, you saw that members of the NFL Management Council Executive Committee and the NFLPA Executive Committee, they had that call on Monday, and they're going to be working through a lot of pivotal issues such as testing protocols, report dates, opt-outs, compensation. Really important things. You don't have a lot of time to iron all that stuff out, so you really hope they can make some headway with those conversations on Monday, because you had 4 months or so to kind of really, get the ball rolling on a lot of these things. And it almost seems like they were just thinking that this was going to go away, or that they would, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But, there's many things that play here, and it almost feels like they're fumbling the baton as they're getting closer to the finish line.
Yeah. Now, an interesting thing came out today from a couple of teams. One, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who said 25% capacity will be for each home game this year. I saw the Bengals saying there will be no tailgating in the lots, but it does seem that the NFL has said fans, when they're allowed, they will be required to wear face coverings indoors. So, are we starting to get that sense and the feeling that the NFL not only wants to kick off, but they want fans in some capacity, no pun intended, to be there when they kick off?
Yeah, there's no question that the NFL, they want to get this thing started on time. They want at least some fans in the stands, and I think they're starting to see that, 25% is likely going to be, what you're going to be dealing with for these games. I don't see that teams being able to, hold, 50%, upwards of 50% of their capacity, given the situation. So it's good to see that they're taking these measures and they have all these protocols in place. Now it's working. Now it's like fine tuning, the other issues, such as like the report dates. And, I think you might actually see some players that, don't feel comfortable going through this and may look to opt out for this season. And, you saw what the NFLPA said that, because of the loss of revenue, they were suggesting that proposing that players, sacrifice 35% of their salary, but which is kind of, absurd considering they're the ones assuming all the risks. So there's a lot of things that really need to be sorted out here before we can even get to July 28th.
Yeah, now Pete Carroll came out today. He said he wouldn't mind if the teams pushed back training camp, and I guess that would somewhat be predicated on if there was no preseason. I guess they would almost be hand in hand. Push back training camp, take out the preseason. We'll start a little bit later. Play no preseason or play only two, but move those two back and start camp. So it seems that there's still some thought that on July 28th, when they want camp to start, that might not happen.
Yeah, Mike, as we get closer to that date, it's starting to become more likely, to me at least, that there may not be a preseason, because there's so many different things that still need to get hashed out. And, I don't know that there's enough time to get all that sorted out between now and then. It just seems like a big, like a rush here. So I think that they could just do away with the preseason altogether, push back training camp, like you said, and, have more time to, practice and get healthy and have their protocols in place and, really focus on the season.
You mentioned that some players might opt out once things start to move forward. Donovan Smith, left tackle of the Buccaneers, who will be protecting Tom Brady, said that it might not be worth the risk. And I wonder if one person does come out and officially opt out, will that start a snowball effect similar to what you're seeing in baseball? Buster Posey was the most recent one to opt out.
I think it could, Hunter, actually. There's actually some college players that I can see, some prominent college players that might not want to enter the draft, may not want to play this season because they have the draft, kind of looming, and they don't necessarily want to take that risk of playing this season. I think you're going to see that with the NFL. Like one player may decide that it's not worth the risk, putting their families in compromising positions, and then you could see other players kind of follow suit. I think a lot of it's going to have to do with how baseball and the NBA, how they're able to work through this issue in the coming weeks. But I think it's a significant possibility that a lot of guys might go that route, especially once you hear what comes from that Monday call.
Yeah, I do want to get your take, because I know you are big on covering the college players and the combine and that kind of stuff. The college game and the effect this might have on the NFL moving forward, and that not having college or condensed college seasons. The NFL is probably not concerned about that right now, but is that something that could also be a big impact for the football season?
It's going to be a huge impact, because if I'm not mistaken, I think the Ivy League has actually moved their season to the spring.
They haven't announced that yet, but they are considering playing in the spring, but they have canceled the fall.
Right. They've canceled the fall, and I kind of see the NCAA as a whole. I kind of see them pushing back the season, and it's going to affect. Then all of a sudden it becomes, well, okay, you push back the season, then what becomes of the Senior Bowl and the East West Shrine Bowl and the Combine and the draft, and that's kind of something that you really haven't thought of, and I don't even know how that would even work. But it's. Right now, everything is slated to be on time, but I don't even know. There's a lot of things that need to occur before you even get to the NFL draft, and it's kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, I mean that could be another trickle down effect to the NFL if there is no college season. I mean,
absolutely.
What would you? I mean, right now, what percentage chance do you see a college football season happening?
Man, to be honest, I think as we get closer and you kind of see how things are starting to shake out and cases rise, and I think it could be 50-50 right now, to be honest with you. I mean, I could see it very, very easily going either way. And, let's say the season does start on time. I don't know that they finish the season. That's going to be the problem, because then it's going to coincide, like the NFL season, obviously it's going to coincide with flu season. And then it becomes, unfamiliar territory. Then what happens?
Geez, you're in a very,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about okay, the Big Ten is not playing conference games. And then, like today here locally, high school football has been pushed back to October now. So they've already cut 1 month out. What if the Big Ten or college football, they all say, you know what, we don't think we can get ready by September. We're going to start in October. And you only play, 6 games instead of 10. And then that doesn't, it's just a trickle-down effect that is unrealistic. But, some people would say, well, why could the NFL play and not college? I mean, that is tied to really the school, right? I mean, that's where the big difference is the professionals are getting paid where the college kids are tied to the university.
Yeah, exactly. There's different things at stake here. College players are not getting paid. But you did mention something interesting. Let's say they do play 6 games. Well, 6 games, and then they shut it down. They have to shut it down, or whatever. If they start in October and then they play a handful of games, well, that's better than nothing. Some of these guys, their draft stock is riding essentially on this season in some cases. So I think some sort of college football played. I just don't know if it'll be a full slate of games this season. And if you do start in October, like we were saying, that's kind of when flu season really starts to kick in, and then what happens if the cases spike again? Do you just call the season? Do you just or what do you do? It's really just strange times, and starting in October, I don't know that's plausible.
I don't think that college football will be played, but sometimes I just question, because we're not in a huge college football market, but we look at the Eagles in the NFL, like it has to be done. You would think that they have to find a way to get it done based off of money and things like that. When we look at the SEC and we look at Alabama, LSU, Georgia, they feel that way that we feel about the Eagles towards their team. So I just wonder if down south, is college football so big that they have to find a way to get it done, similar to how we feel about the NFL.
I said yesterday, Andrew, that if they just said, if you want college football, wear a mask the next couple of months, you would see a mask on every person down there.
Yeah, college football is a way of life down there for sure, especially when you see their recent history and the quality of play. I don't know. It's tough to say, because you see what the University of Houston, they were conducting practices and guys were, testing positive for COVID. I mean, when you get in these summer workouts, there's 80 players, just like the NFL. I believe there's 80 players on a college roster, 70, 80 players. It's going to be kind of hard to, we don't know what their protocols are, but it's going to be really hard to, make sure everyone's, staying healthy and social distancing and everything, just to make it to September. It's going to be pretty challenging. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to pull it off.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, here with us as we continue on. I want to go back to Jackson here for a second. Lane Johnson this morning he was on with Golick and Wingo, and he basically said that, I talked to DeSean. I know he's under the fire. When you make mistakes, you have to own up to it. I think the best thing is to get educated, try to make all the wrongs you did right, and that's all you can do. So that's, Lane talking about his teammate. Now, Chris Long yesterday said something pretty interesting when it goes back to the Riley Cooper situation, and he said that Cooper – after that, he had to walk back into the locker room, which was, mainly African Americans, and that was like a big thing for him to educate himself and then have to walk back and kind of be in the locker room with his peers. And that is where there might be one big difference here with DeSean Jackson. But I want to ask you, do you think that this could cause any problems in the locker room with DeSean? Because I'm sure there were problems with Cooper in that locker room, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, actually, Moshe and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and, with him covering the story so closely, if you remember when LaShawn McCoy wouldn't speak to Riley Cooper for a while. It took a while for him to kind of warm back up to Riley Cooper, and I believe it was his first practice. Riley Cooper got into a fight with Kerry Williams. He wasn't very well received, and it took a while for him. He actually ended up having a career season that year. It took a while for him to really build up that trust and for the team to kind of gain he had to regain everyone's respect. And DeSean, there's similar. It's a different situation, I guess, for DeSean. But he's in DeSean's case, he's following up his words with his actions, and that's respectable in itself. And he's he's taking these extra measures to really make sure that he's educating himself. And I think that that's going to earn him respect. He's following up his words with his actions, and so I think that he should be well received by the time training camp begins.
Gil brought up Lane Johnson, and it looks like him and Matt Pryor are actually in a summit right now in Texas. It does say that safety protocols are in place, but what exactly is going on there?
Yeah, Duke Manyweather. If you guys aren't familiar with him, he's a private offensive line coach. He's a terrific follow on Twitter. But they're doing there's something where they watch film and then they go through walkthrough type on field drills, and Teron Armstead's there, Laramie Tunsil's there, a lot of offensive linemen are there. Eric McCoy from the Saints. What I found really interesting about this, Hunter, is the kind of procedures that they have to go through because of the uniqueness of COVID. They have to sign a liability waiver. They got to get their temperatures taken at the front desk. The ballroom that they sit in will, they typically seat the tables that seat 8. Well, now they're going to seat 4. The tables are going to be staggered 10 feet apart. So they're doing these different things to get it, to make sure they can run it smoothly. But it's kind of interesting to see the measures that they're willing to take, in order to get this thing off.
I think they got a long way to go, don't you?
I think they have a long way to go, man.
Long way. And don't you think the players feel they have a long way to go?
And you kind of sense that, Mike, when you see some of the quotes that are coming out. You saw what Malik Jackson said. He's like, I can't sack a quarterback, 6 feet away, and you start to see the concern. Even Malcolm Jenkins, I believe it was a month or so ago, maybe it was 2 months ago, when he expressed concern. Players are assuming all the risks here, and I think that there's so much uncertainty here with the virus, and there's not all the protocols aren't in place yet, so there's going to be a lot of there's going to be some nervous players out there, and that's kind of leads back to what I was saying. I think you could see some potential opt-outs once you see, kind of how that's all going to work after that Monday call.
So the Eagles signed Quez Watkins. What does this exactly mean for the team? I know people tried to put that together with DeSean Jackson news, but what does that mean for him and the team?
To echo what Jeff said, those two had nothing to do with one another. Quez Watkins is, he was a late round pick. He's going to have an opportunity for a roster spot. He's going to have an uphill battle for a roster spot, I should say. He's going to be in that battle with, Greg Ward, John Hightower, and Marquise Goodwin, perhaps, for that slot, for that role. But he's a raw player. He's probably would be best served from spending a season on the practice squad. But it's good to see him get that contract signed, or now he can focus on, you can focus on preparing yourself for training camp if and when that happens. But he has an uphill battle to make the roster.
I'll leave you with this. John Clayton was on with us on Wednesday, and he mentioned that Clowney's price is going down. One of the reasons is he was offered $17, $18 million from the Dolphins and the Browns, and he says that they're not good enough teams. He wants to play for a good team, and if he's willing to take 1 year, $9 to $10 million, is that an attractive enough number for Howie Roseman? And the caveat was, if you sign him to a 1-year deal and he leaves, you get that third-round comp pick most likely if he walks out the door. So if that's the number, $9 to $10 million for a year, should the Eagles be interested?
Yeah, I think you have to be for $9 or $10 million. I think that would be a steal. I think that if the price is right, I think that the Eagles will be an attractive destination for him. I think it'll be a good marriage. But I think what the Eagles would like to do in a perfect world is get a long look at their defensive linemen, the Josh Sweats, the Sharif Millers, the Jannard Avery, who they traded a 4th-round pick for last season, really see where they're at in their development throughout the summer before. I don't anticipate Jadeveon Clowney signing, within the next month or so. I kind of think he'll be an August addition for a team, once teams really assess what they have and don't have. But I think the Eagles would really like to see what they have on the defensive line before, before adding another player to the position. But, if they've shown anything, they place an added emphasis on the defensive line. So that would be the place where they would add.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, Football Forward, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, Andrew's back on Tuesday. Now, we didn't ask you Tuesday. Broads wore a T-shirt that he bought on the street at a Phillies game. Do you buy the T-shirt from the street vendor, the knockoff?
Bros, I'm with you, man. I'm not going to knock it because you know what? I think we've all gotten a shirt or two from the street vendors. I like the Bash Brothers shirt. I kind of liken that to the Mighty Ducks, Portman and
see,
and
that's
Fulton.
where I went. I went Mighty Ducks.
Right. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm not gonna knock it because I've done it before.
You got it. Do you have them still? Do you wear them?
No, actually,
I can understand if you say it was a drunk.
Whoa.
If he said it was a drunk purchase and that's it, you wore it the one night, but he rocked it to work.
I defended why I had to wear it. My laundry is really low, and at my new house, the washer and dryer is not set up yet. This is a perfect reason on why I wore it.
I said that's a fair reason.
Fair.
My point is,
question is,
yeah.
After you wash it, is the shirt still intact? Does it fit? Because my past experience, you give that 2 wears. And that shirt's pretty much history, man. Like you can't read anything on the shirt anymore. It's shrunk.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is in the pile of like my hang out around hang out around the house or like go to sleep in it type shirts.
You got a
all right. That's fair, man.
Do you have a happy hour Friday IPA for us?
Of course. I think I'm going with Cloudy and Cumbersome from Levante Brewing.
Ooh.
It's kind of fitting for the weather that we have right now.
All right, Andrew DiCecco at DiCecco NFL, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. Have a great weekend, man.
Guys, take care.
All right, he'll be back Tuesday. Great stuff.